it's about time I make another life experience video again. And how about we talk about something that's involving a trip, considering that that's what's going to be happening soon. For those who don't know, this Friday after school, me and my parents are going to be going down to Florida again. I know we already did for Thanksgiving break, but this time we're doing it because why not? We've been wanting to do it for a little while now. Because my parents thought, hey, maybe we could go down for Thanksgiving or maybe for Easter perhaps, or something like that for fun, something different. And I agreed, yeah, let's do that. And sometime soon, here we are. And you may be thinking, well, this is kind of redundant, but it kind of compensates for the past because the last time we went to Florida before my last time in all, which was during Thanksgiving break of last year, was way back in summer of 2015 where we didn't do much. The year before we went to Disney World and stuff like that, but yeah, we didn't really do much that year, and ever since then it's just been Montana and other places. California, Washington, Arizona, Nevada, and as I'm about to talk about in this video, Virginia. So let's talk about it. And our story starts way back in 2017. For those who don't know, for those who are new here as well, me and my parents are part of a sort of vacation plan thingamajiggy, and because of that, my parents have to pay a lot of bills, and they get a lot of calls from time to time, and it can be a very big nuisance. But sometimes it's made up for with our fun trips. But we haven't done it in a while, and when we do go to a vacation village place, that's what it's called, it's usually not in Florida, or at least the last time was in 2015, as I said earlier. And after our Florida trip in 2015, we decided to go to other places. In 2016, for the summer, we went down to Las Vegas, Nevada, because they had a place down there. And then we went up to Montana and on the way back home. Lots of fun diecasts I got that year, like James Clean Air and the Okuni and Shikago sisters. I think that's their names. And Otis and Christina Wheeland and I think a couple others. Man, what a trip that was. What a year 2016 was for diecast collecting in general. And then there's 2017, which was Virginia Beach, as I'm about to talk about. So, now that you have that in mind, my parents had decided, hey, we have this like time thing or whatever where we can go to a place for a certain amount of money and all. How about something different and interesting? And my parents thought, hey, Virginia Beach, that would be fun. So, in November of 2017, not for Thanksgiving or anything like that, it was earlier on in the month, me and my parents had decided to go down and have fun. And actually, maybe it was Thanksgiving. I'm just going crazy. Actually, no, I don't think it was. Is Thanksgiving in early November or is it later November? I can't recall now. But me and my parents had decided to go for a few day long trip in Virginia Beach. A trip in Virginia Beach? That doesn't sound right. So it all begins a few days beforehand, and all my parents decided to leave the day after Wednesday or so, and that's when the whole story begins. We leave from Michigan on November 7th, 2017, after school ends and stuff, and obviously in the afternoon. We drive all the way down through Ohio and places like that. We go through West Virginia, I believe, and Kentucky. Actually, no, not Kentucky. Pennsylvania. And we see all kinds of nice sights and stuff. We see beautiful trees and a few monuments, perhaps, and tunnels and everything like that. Just simple, fun stuff. Kind of the expected. And then the excitement actually happens. The big kahuna. On our trip and all, on the way down to Virginia Beach, we stop in, where else? Washington, D.C., Maryland. The first and only time I've actually been to Washington, D.C. It was very exciting. The day was cloudy and a bit cold and very windy, I remember. So it wasn't exactly the nicest day, or at least it wasn't in the afternoon. Because a lot of images and videos and movie clips of Washington, D.C., I often see it sunny and nice, but it was very cloudy when we went. And that cloudiness will be explained later, and because it wasn't the last day it was like that, unfortunately. But despite that, we had seen all kinds of places, like various places like the George Washington University Hospital and various hotels and monuments and statues, which makes sense because Washington, D.C. is such a iconic place. Seeing parts of, I believe, the Capitol building and perhaps some museums and other government-related buildings. We see a tour bus at one point, and obviously we see the Washington Monument, which was super exciting. And there are pictures of me and my dad, who was wearing a he was wearing a Make America Great Again hat, by the way. There's pictures of me and him standing up against a Washington Monument, which is quite cool, and you could just really see how massive the thing is. And we also stopped in front of the White House. And at this time, Donald Trump was obviously president, but I don't think he was there. I believe he was somewhere in China or something like that at the time. I'm not exactly sure. I don't really know. Also, my cat just came out of my bed all of a sudden. I didn't even know she was in here. How'd you get in here, fur baby? Aww. You're cute. There you go. Aw, little kitty cat. Sorry about that. Anyways, yeah, we stopped in front of the White House, which was quite fun, even though Donald Trump wasn't there. I kind of said at one point to impress my parents, like, I think I see him coming out of a car or whatever. Obviously, that wasn't the case. And from the Washington Monument, because I believe it's kind of elevated, we could get to see parts of the Washington Mall, and we could see the Capitol building and the Lincoln Memorial even. We could see various parts of the Smithsonian. It was very surreal and exciting because, like, these are the places that were in Night at the Museum, Battle of the Smithsonian, and Evan Almighty, for God's sakes. This is exciting. We weren't exactly stepping in the same buildings and stuff like that, unfortunately. And my parents, most notably my mom, does want to go back to Washington, D.C. and have a proper trip, not a little in and out thing for not even half a day, and actually go inside the museums and see more history and everything, despite the fact that I know so much about it, mostly thanks to the news and everything. And after all that fun and all, and going into the car and heading off, we then stopped at a McDonald's, I now remember, and this, unlike McDonald's in other countries, McDonald's around the States and everything aren't usually that different. Some are, some aren't, and this one wasn't very different. But on the drive, though, I was doing some fun things throughout the whole journey. I was reading my dinosaur book, which I wish I could show you, but there's a darn sink in the way of my bookshelf, unfortunately. And I also brought some DVDs, like my Toy Story of Terror, which I still have yet to watch properly, believe it or not. But I didn't even watch any of the DVDs on the trip for some reason, despite the fact that we didn't really have very many things we could really do on our trip, sadly, which is unfortunate, but that's mostly thanks to the cloudy weather, which, unfortunately, I keep saying that word, was to last. And, what else is there to say? We drove through some other iconic areas, very Washington-looking highways and stuff. Saw some other funny monuments, and then comes the interesting part. The sun begins to set, and we then start to go down below. Yep, since we're going to Virginia Beach, we went down the tunnels that go under the water, for crying out loud, which was very surreal and exciting because I did not even notice it was a thing at the time. And it's quite fascinating to think about the fact that people had to build underground, which was underwater and everything. It's kind of freaky the more you think about it. What if the ceiling begins to collapse, all Shin Godzilla style in that one scene, if you guys know what Shin Godzilla is? Man, I cannot get over how derpy he looked in those scenes. And obviously at this point it was nighttime, which made it even spookier at times. And afterwards we went over some bridges, which were right over the open oceans, basically. And it was kind of freaky because we could see like large waves below us and cars, kind of, and I was kind of freaking out going into the middle of the car, hoping we wouldn't drive off the bridge. And finally we made it into our hotel, which I don't really have very many pictures of, but we did get inside, got our stuff indoors and everything, and I think it started to sprinkle a little bit. It was very windy and cold, I remember. May I remind you, this is November, and it's close to the ocean. Of course there's going to be a lot of cold wind. And we made it upstairs, and my parents had some wine and stuff. Yeah, very interesting, yeah. And the days afterwards, my parents had unfortunately done the typical thing of, like, talking to people about vacation plans and stuff like that, just kind of boring stuff. Stuff that wouldn't really interest me very much, and those went on for almost an entire day, basically. But afterwards, we saw the beach, and we didn't really go swimming in the beach because it was cloudy and cold and windy and sometimes raining. But we actually went to a place called Rockefeller's, which is kind of near a sort of boat dock area. And it's a nice seafood restaurant, and that was a lot of fun. My parents had nice drinks, and I had yummy food, and there was lobsters as well, which I was fiddling around with because they were basically dead lobster corpses, and you guys know my love for animals, so I was inspecting them, looking around at them. Their faces were still in mid condition and all that kind of stuff. My parents were having a yummy, nice time. I know that sounds funny. And having stuff like cheesecake and beer or whatever. And then comes one of the most substantial parts of the whole trip. After we stopped at that restaurant and all for my mom's dinner, which I think it was actually her birthday around that time as well, which is probably why we went and took her dinner. We took her out for dinner, I should say. We stopped at a Walmart afterwards. I don't remember exactly why, but I immediately ran to the Cars section, and being 2017, Cars 3 was the newest thing at the time. Well, not really, but still. And guess what? That was the time I had seen cars like High Impact, no, not High Impact, unfortunately. Pushover, Patty, Chase Racelot, Bubba Wheelhouse, and of course, Broadside. In my Thunder Hollow ranking lists video, in the Broadside section, I put a small little text that said, "This is a story for another day" or something. And guess what? Now I'm talking about it. On that trip, I had realized, unfortunately, that I did not bring my wallet. And when you do not bring your wallet into the stores, don't always expect your parents to buy you cars, unfortunately, especially when you're my age at the time. And you guys know the story from there, hopefully. I found a whole bunch of cars, and I hoped that my parents would order me or buy me a few of these cars and all, because at the time, these were all new cars to me and all. They weren't back at home at all. And when we got back home and all the first time, I don't think they were there either yet. But it wasn't until later that they finally all arrived in a huge wave of like 15 or something. And the one that was up front and center was Broadside, believe it or not. And I'd asked my parents, "Can we just order one at least?" I keep saying order, buy. Can we buy one at least? But my dad said no, even though he has like tons of money stacked up and everything. We're on a blooming vacation trip. You can't just buy your kid a 372 car, really? And unfortunately, that was the last time I would ever see Broadside in person. Well, at least the China single, I am not buying that Thailand one. It's not awful, but I'm still not going to sell out and get that thing. If it's not as good as the China version, then it's not good enough for me. I'm sorry, but it's just not, because I'm going to feel disappointed, and when I get the China version, I'm not going to feel that rush of excitement because it's technically not a car I don't have yet. That's exactly the problem with buying cars that already have China versions. Okay, enough with that side tangent. I was kind of annoyed and all about that, but I didn't let it sour my thoughts. And then the day afterwards, I believe it was time for us to get going. It was a windy day, and we could see waves and all breaking through the water at the ocean. And I believe there was patio chairs and all outside the hotel. And me and my mom went out and we took some photos, or my dad took photos of us by the beach, kind of. And afterwards, we packed up our stuff and got going and basically did a cycle of what we did before. Went underground and all, and this time during the day, obviously. Saw the tunnel and the bridges and everything like that. And we went back onto mainland, and we saw areas around Delaware and parts of Maryland, West Virginia, etc. And also in the backseat, I remember playing FNAF Sister Location on my tablet and constantly covering my eyes and all when it comes to playing the Ballora level, because at the time, Ballora's jump scare traumatized me. Yeah, just a little fun fact for you. And that's basically the end of the whole trip, basically. Oh, I can't forget to mention, on the way there and back, we went through a sort of bridge area, which was very fun. It was a sort of tall bridge that was sort of a suspension bridge, but it had like laces kind of in the way how it looks and all, how it was suspending it with the cables and everything. It's a funny looking bridge. It's white and everything. There's one like it in Zookeeper, if you've seen that movie. If you know what I'm talking about with the bridge in that film, you know what I'm referring to. Not exactly that bridge, but you get the point. We saw that bridge all lit up at nighttime, and it was beautiful. We didn't get any pictures, unfortunately, but we did see it during the daytime on the way back. That, and also after visiting my Uncle Steve and Aunt Val with their cute 4 pups at the time, 2 of which are dead now, unfortunately. Rest in peace. Bubbles and Gidget. And that's basically the whole thing about the Virginia Beach trip. Quite a fun time. Not a whole lot worth talking about, but stuff that's somewhat interesting to cover, and I wanted to get off my chest, especially because of stuff like Washington, D.C. and Broadside. That's basically all I have to really say.